Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday, May 15th edition of the Somerville Urban Forestry Committee. Pursuant to the Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, this meeting will be held remotely. So we will start by welcoming in any members of the public. And in our meetings, we like to invite folks to be panelists so that you can share yourself if you'd like to. You can turn your camera on, say hello. Feel free to unmute and we'll have a moment for folks to introduce themselves, but at this time, I think Vanessa will promote folks to be panelists so you can join the meeting more meaningfully. And then I will copy and just share the agenda. Right. And then we'll just start with committee introduction. So we'll go around and have all the committee members introduce themselves. Before we do that, just housekeeping, want to make sure we have someone taking minutes today. Marian, awesome, thank you. Any other housekeeping before we jump into intros? Great.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi, Tori.
Oh, there's Holly. Okay. Um, oh, housekeeping. I was going to talk about the chairs. So yeah, excellent.
Great. So we'll start with intros so we can go down by first alphabetical by first name and have the committee introduce themselves. So I think Allie up first. Nope, I can't hear you. It doesn't say you're muted though, so it might be a tech issue. We will come back to Allie. You want to jump to Dorothy?
Me now?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
I'm Allie Bernard, and I'm an associate member. I've been on this committee maybe a year, and I'm a certified tree keeper and tree lover.
Awesome.
And I'm Dorothy Supit. I'm a committee member and I'm a tree enthusiast.
Great. Marian?
Hi, I'm Marian. I'm a member of the committee and I am also a tree enthusiast.
And Michael?
Hello. Hi, my name is Michael Hendricks. I'm a Somerville resident, parent, and tree enthusiast.
And Tori?
My name is Tori Antonino. I am a current co-chair of the committee and just really excited about all the pollinators that are coming out, and as we continue our entering into our, well, we're not summer yet, but just excited about the weather and the flowers and the pollinators. So, Vanessa.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm Vanessa Bukili. I'm the Senior Urban Forestry and Landscape Planner with the city and member of the committee. Sort of having mixed feelings about the rain. It's great for the trees, not so great for my field work. It's my pleasure to introduce Joelle Renstrom, who is our new Urban Forestry Committee member. She is all signed and official. Our youth member couldn't come here today, but she should be here next month, I hope. So, Joelle, I'll pass it to you.
Hey, so yeah, this is my first meeting. I'm Joelle. I am a tree enthusiast and now a committee member. So yeah, I'm super happy to be here.
Awesome. So great to have you. Congrats on making it through the bureaucratic obstacle course. And my name's Leah Grossman. I'm one of the co-chairs. I'm a landscape architect and member of the committee, and also very excited. I should have prefaced with everyone to say like their favorite thing in bloom right now, but there's so many things. Just go out for a walk. It's beautiful. So yeah, let's jump into other housekeeping. It looks like we have co-chair nominations. Yeah, I think that's something we talked about 2 meetings ago, perhaps, and everyone was going to contemplate if they were ready to sign up to be co-chair. Did I get that right?
Yeah, I mean, Leia, I invite you to stay on as long as you wish. I just think I would like to step down as co-chair, and tap one of you lovely people who can do the job and perhaps even a better job than I can. And I kind of like the idea that we take turns, so people's different, talents and breadth of experiences, we can all learn from each other. So that was part of the reason that I was hoping someone would like to step up. It doesn't, most of the work is around, of course, chairing the meetings and then working on the agenda for each month.
Yeah, I'll say, Tori, you've done a great job as co-chair. It's been great to have your co-leadership. And I also think it's a nice cycle to sort of swap. So we have one continuous person and then one new person on alternate. I think we said like a yearly basis or something around those lines. So I think
You look to swap that in May roughly every year, or is that a different timeline?
that sounds like a great timeline. We could definitely set. I don't think it's been established.
May sounds good.
I should probably
So yeah, to the
clarify,
folks.
I'm not volunteering. I was just curious.
Oh, no, you're not, Michael. I thought that was a preamble.
Sorry.
Okay, no.
And I think this is probably logistically limited to full members, not associates, because we have to do vote stuff. Does that probably mean something?
Probably, yeah,
Okay.
probably safe. All right, Michael, Marion, Dorothy,
Joelle?
Joelle, first meeting, you want to be co-chair?
Yeah, so I may have to step off, so I am not available. I'm having a lot of conflicts with this particular meeting. So yeah.
Is there a world where we have a temporary chair? I think ideally co-chairs is nicer to swap off. I think Marion or Michael would do a stellar job. It's not a ton of extra work. And the benefit is that you don't have to do meeting minutes. So that's a pitch. But I know, Marion, you're a writer, so you probably love doing meeting minutes. But now you get to help craft the agenda. So it's a toss-up.
And
Michael, I think you'd make an excellent co-chair.
yes.
I just started a new job that's a lot busier than my previous one.
Oh,
So
that's fair.
But I understand in the future, I'd be happy to do it.
All right. So I know we have a few other folks who are not here today. I don't know, Vanessa, would it be in keeping to send an explicit email out to the rest of the committee members as a not to maybe to reply just to you and myself maybe, and see if we can. I know Kala, I'm just scanning through the minutes from last time. Kala expressed interest, but she'd only be able to do it until the fall.
Yeah.
But that could actually be a great moment for other committee members to see if they would be ready to step up in the fall. And I think that would also be a great experience for Kala to have a few meetings where she's chairing and get to learn a little bit more from her while she's still on the committee. So she's not here, so it's also hard to put her on the spot, but I know she offered last time. So I wonder if you could send an email after sort of proposing that and see if she's open to it, and then see if we can sort of queue up any other members. Maybe Joelle get some more experience on the committee, and see if other members would be ready to step up in the fall.
Oh, good.
Okay.
If there's ever like a meeting where you need, I can step in as chair. It's hard to do all my spiels and chair, but I can help out where needed too.
Great.
But I'll do that email to Cal.
If I can clarify, I won't step down until there's somebody to replace me. I just want to I just like the idea of like sharing the responsibility and also maybe letting somebody else shine a little.
Mhm.
So I just feel like we have a lot of just competent people and um yeah, so maybe this doesn't need to be decided today, but Leah, like what you suggested,
For what it's worth, I might be more open to something like this in the fall. Like I need to get off a board. I'm a little overextended, so if I were to get off that other board, I would
Mhm.
possibly be more open to taking on a bigger role here.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah, so it seems like if Tori's open to, yeah, maybe we do a hybrid triple co-chair with giving Calla some leadership experience and then kind of all have a vision of getting another full co-chair in the fall. Yeah, thanks everyone for stepping up and being honest with how much you can contribute. It's important not to overextend. All right, so anything else on that? Great. So now we'll open it up to resident concerns, and also we can just do resident and other participant introductions. So I see Holly and Juliana, if you want to just say hi, and if you have any concerns to share, feel free. Juliana, go ahead.
Yes, no, I'm just here because I've not been listening and, sort of attending the meetings for a while. So I wanted, to jump in today. I remembered. I am a Somerville resident and I care about, sustainable green city and the environment. And I'm a tree lover and defender. So, yes, so I'm looking forward to be updated on what is happening. Concerns I don't have.
Awesome, welcome.
Thank you.
And Holly, feel free to say hi.
Hi, I'm the chair of the Somerville Commission for Persons with Disabilities, and Tori and I met at a public event, and we were talking about trees and parking and sidewalks and how there can be some really good natural-looking solutions. How nature is not square; it's round and curved. We were talking about how trees that are coming through the sidewalks and safety for people who are blind and people who have mobility challenges. And I heard that there was a lot of maintenance done recently at Henry Leathers Park, Harry Leathers Park, Edward Leathers Park. I'm sorry, still at work. It's a long day. Forgive me. I have not been there because it's been lots of rained out events, but I do plan to go by to see what types of things that they've done. Because that was one thing we had discussed was some maintenance of a lot of Edward Leathers behind the high school near the green line. Excuse me, just answering that question. And it's very eroded and it has a lot of limbs that we're extending over. And so I'm just here to participate. I look forward to checking out what it looks like and seeing where we can partner some more. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks so much for joining. And yeah, it looks like this is actually our first agenda item. So I don't know if, or sorry, I'll first open it up to other committee members who may have resident concerns. Hearing none. Last call. Awesome. Yeah, so I think this is our next agenda item. So I don't know if Tori, you want to give a more additional introduction, or we can just continue the conversation that Holly was just sharing.
yeah, I think yeah, we met at a Women's Day event and just happy to have met you, Holly, and enjoyed chatting with you. And yeah, the description of the Ed Leathers showing when Holly showed me the pictures, I couldn't imagine it, but it's unfortunately some of the roots are kind of coming up into the path. So that's I think where one of the issues are. And I'd say let's give it to Holly to have the floor.
Thank you. My dad had an incredible green thumb, and he had a garden that at the time, back in the 80s, when they were doing tours of Somerville gardeners, he was one of the people whose garden that they looked at. He grew vegetables. He grew up in Brick Bottom before, when it was a neighborhood. Not that it is the industrial area that it is now. He would have been in his 90s. He tried his best to teach me how to take care of plants, and I do have a garden and I do a lot of herbs, but I do have kind of a muddy thumb, not very green, but I'm trying. I do love trees. I love all the things that they do for us, but when they are coming up the sidewalks and into people's homes, or some of them even as far as, cutting through the curb and the edges of the sidewalks, they become really dangerous. And we have across the board, across the entire municipality, a lack of maintenance, whether it be streets, sidewalks, tree grooming, maintaining our schools, maintaining our buildings. And, there's many reasons for that. And obviously we're plagued with budget issues, and assuming it will get worse, and we haven't been able to hire enough people to fill many of the open positions. But I think we can't keep building parks if we can't maintain them. And if we don't have staffing or budgets, we need to find creative ways, because it would be a real waste to plant pollinators and to plant trees and just have them not thrive. I just, it's cruel to do to them and to do to us. So I don't know if it's, I've put requests in the past about trees and the ADA, and once I got a response, it said that the trees are historical, and they're not affected by the ADA laws, and that's really not true. The sidewalks need to be passable and safe. And there's ways to mitigate that. So I was hoping, I don't know how your group works alongside those people who are looking at sort of what's happening with some trees in the sidewalks, or when we're cutting a narrow sidewalk to place a tree into it and making it even narrower. Some of those choices I think could be made a little, maybe there'd be other options as to where those trees could be, or maybe making the sidewalks wider so there's room for both. There's a lot for one sentence and two breaths, but.
I think I can start with some answers. Holly, I'm the senior urban forester, so I decide where to plant trees and manage the tree planting program. I'm also in the public space and urban forestry department, so with the parks planners. For me, I do make sure for new tree pits that I have over 3 feet of sidewalk width behind the tree pit. Is that something that you were hoping it was more, or have you seen, or are you talking about other trees where the sidewalks are narrower in general? Oh, you're muted, but it looks like you're trying to answer.
I'm sorry. It should be 48. 38 is an exception, not the standard. And actually, I've gotten lots of things back from the city at different times saying it should be closer to 5 feet. And we don't always have that much room to begin with. We'd have to, make our older sidewalks cut into the street. That's that redesign. But in areas where we are doing new design, like say areas of Union, we've put in a lot of new sidewalks and redesigned everything. Areas like that should have much more room so that trees have plenty of space, and so do pedestrians and things that are on wheels. I have seen some incredible designs, specifically in the area of Union Square, where there's been just the way that you all have designed the use of the roads and the bikes and the trees and I don't want to call it pits, I'm sorry, but they're there for overflow and such. And they look beautiful. And I appreciate all the effort that goes into that. I think you're doing a great job with those. But so like I live in Ward 4, and my daughter used a wheelchair, and we still couldn't walk the sidewalks in my neighborhood or get across the street. There's so many trees in off of Oakland Ave or near Oakland Ave that are just impassable.
Yeah,
No-
I hear that, and it's not at all the same, but I had babies with a double stroller, and I don't live in Somerville anymore, but yeah, it's even worse in Stoneham, but I can imagine, it was impossible to go down roads in Somerville. So that's, not quite the same, but similar in terms of needing width.
It's exactly the same, actually, because if
Is
you
it?
do look at a side-by-side double stroller, or even just some regular strollers can't fit through. But our commission, we have 2 members who are white cane users. They're blind, and how things are pointed and which direction to cross, and those tactile items, and where we place things, not just trees but other fixtures. That's how they stay safe when they navigate. And I just think that we've done some beautiful, beautiful designs, and we've had open areas, but there's always room for looking at individual cases. And I don't know if, if people say, hey, the tree on XYZ is really big. Do they bring that to you? Where would that get reviewed?
They do. I have seen those sorts of things. We've even talked about some here at the committee meetings. And I appreciate that, people are a key part of the city and need to get around, but trees are also protected by state law as well. So when there's that conflict, it becomes a challenge, and we can go through a tree hearing process to discuss the removal of a tree. But it doesn't automatically pass. It doesn't automatically get cut down if it's a healthy tree. So there are some challenges where there's the procedure doesn't result in the tree being removed. We're also working with the engineering department. So when new streetscapes are designed, like this Somerville Ave, like Spring Hill sewer separation, we think about tree placement and sidewalk width, and he's always a huge proponent of sidewalk width over trees when they're redoing a sidewalk. And in some cases we have had tree hearings, or we have bump outs so that there's a passable way, ADA way for everyone to walk down those streets. But for the other streets that don't have huge streetscape projects, we don't have the luxury of redesigning the entire sidewalk. We have to work with what's there. So that's I think where you're seeing more of the challenges still, and where there's going to, I imagine, be conflict for a long time. We have very narrow sidewalks, as you are aware, and not a lot of room for trees. So you mentioned some alternative solutions besides making the sidewalk wider. Do you have any other recommendations or thoughts?
I think it's it's a very broad comment to say. It would be a very broad statement, because it's literally site by site. Like, as you can't say, oh, it's got to be 48 or 16. We put a tree and it's this type and everything's perfect. Like, there's so many other factors, like what's near it. Are there bike racks nearby? Is it where the bus stops? Like, you have to know all the little pieces that fit into that design. But it would be nice if the Disability Commission, maybe if I was able to keep on track of when you have hearings, or the process that you're going through, or if there's somewhere to follow that, so we can educate ourselves. And if there's input we could give. You know, part of our we're required to do is to engage with other departments within the city, and when they, you know, intersect with areas that we might have some expertise in or navigating or needs to be able to have a seat at the table. And a lot of times we're told to wait till it goes to public comment, or you know, and that can be tough. But if there's a way that I can follow something, I will do that and see if there's, you know, I do see sometimes if there are tree hearings on certain things, but I don't know if I think I need a little help understanding how to use your tree software, and that's a side conversation, but I do appreciate it, and I do also recognize that we don't live in a big wide open area. We don't have budgets, but look what we did with people who like adopted greens.
They
Maybe
copied our Adopt a Tree program, actually.
well, it was so good they stole it, I guess. So, but those are things that people really want to help and get involved in. So, thank you for letting me share my thoughts.
Thank you.
I see Marion's hand. Do you have a response or new comment?
I had a response. I wanted to say, Holly, I think, you know, you live in Ward 4, you said. I live in Ward 1, and we have a shared problem, which is we are in I think the two neighborhoods, well, Ward 2 has some of this too, but like we live in two neighborhoods that are particularly plagued by terrible sidewalks and lack of mobility. But one of the things that we haven't quite figured out is how to talk about these things, because widening the sidewalks in many cases would have implications for parking. And many of the people who are concerned about mobility also are terribly concerned about potentially losing a parking space that could affect, even though anytime that parking spaces get removed, usually the ones that get kept are the handicap spaces, or they get designated as handicap spaces. So, but I think that this is something where it might be a really good conversation. This could be a really good collaboration for us to have about, like, how can we start thinking about ways to deal with both these problems simultaneously. I think could be a really good thing, because then that could become part of a public education campaign, because I think it is very easy to blame whatever tree is there for the fact that we have profound injustices in our communities. And it's not the tree's fault. So
we can't blame the bikes, we can't blame the cars, we can't blame the pedestrians, we can't blame the trees, we can't blame the parking spots. We all kind of have to figure out how to give each other a break and to try to, you know, concede that we all have to coexist. And that's a big, tall ask, a really big, tall ask. But I wonder if Ward 1 and 4, because that would be East Somerville, correct? I think that because I've lived in Somerville my whole life, so, and I live in the same neighborhood where I grew up. And I think we possibly had like a lot of the same trees planted at the same time that grew big or weren't trimmed timely, or like they just kind of morphed to this massive state. And then there was just not a lot of work done in those areas, as opposed to other wards in the city that had a lot of changes, you know, like Davis and near the high school and Highland Ave. So I do think we have some commonalities there.
Holly, have you been around Medford Street? Because I used to live in Ward 5, and around Medford Street, and Vanessa, you could speak to this much better. Like, they put in this soft red stuff, and I felt like that seemed like a really good idea.
So that's the stuff that like protects it.
It's
it like it filled in.
It's, yeah, to give the roots more access to water, but also provide an ADA surface.
It's super slippery in the rain.
Really?
Yeah. I'll test it out when I get home later if it's pouring here. Who knows what it'll be like when I get home, but it can be very slippery. But I do like that it is that it is a solid and there's as smooth as can be. I do like that piece very much. I thought that was a nice compromise. And actually, I walked Medford Street with Brian and Jesse Clean, and when they were like just starting it, when they were had dug it and hadn't made some final things, and they did make some changes, not necessarily about trees, but more about things to align a little bit differently. Because sometimes like moving something a couple inches, like a sign or an other item, makes a huge difference. Like it doesn't, they don't have to be big, costly. Like I don't like ever suggesting yank the tree up, fill it in, start all over, move it down there. Like, okay, maybe next time we moved it there, and that solves some problems. Like and I also think we have to accept that sometimes no one's going to be happy with where something is. None of those 5 groups are going to feel that they're being served. But I will say that there is currently less than 1% of our total parking is accessible right now. So that's really low. And in areas where we have healthcare, like in Davis, and other types of places like churches and our city hall that should have more parking. It's some areas have no accessible parking at all, so it's tough. Because I know that when parking puts accessible parking spots in, sometimes businesses get upset because now that space isn't available for someone to, park in that doesn't have a handicap placard. So it's hard.
Yeah, I just pulled this up as a reference. I think these are some of the strategies that we've seen around the city. So one is bumping the sidewalk around the tree so the tree has more continuous root zone to the adjacent house. And then I was going to try and see, I think it's this tree. This might have been before it was installed, but I think this one, some of these is where that FlexiPave was installed, just to give folks a visual of some of the strategies that the city is using currently. And I think, yeah, it sounds like continuing the collaboration and knowing when to pull the right people into the room and leverage all the shared experiences is probably a good next step. And I see Michael's hand.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Hi, Holly. I just wanted to say thanks for coming to the meeting and bringing it to our attention. You're educating me on this. I do push a stroller around a lot these days, so have some awareness for like bumpy or narrow sidewalks. But the width distances, and I was just looking up some of the ADA, both like preferred and requirements. That's new to me, so I appreciate you flagging that to us. And to the extent that we're either having conversations that fill into this infrastructure or whatnot. So yeah, thanks for taking the time to come.
Sure. And there's been some changes recently too. What the building code is and what the designs have to be. And you'd literally, I mean, even I can't stay on top of it. It's also not what I do for full-time work. But I do try to stay on top of the code and such. But sometimes, also we'll have outdoor dining started up again, and we'll have some things that are really tough up against, a tree, or they're up against, really close to a handicap spot, or really too close to a crosswalk. And we really need to make sure that our local businesses can survive in our economy, and outdoor dining is a wonderful thing. But again, I don't think we have the staffing or the time to go out and recheck that the designs that they put in are actually what ends up there. So it's tough. And it's going to be 35 years that the ADA has been in place. Sure.
Tori?
Congratulations to your committee, or a commission. 35 years, that's... No, you mean the 35 years of the ADA law.
For ADA.
Jeez. Wow, that seems a lot more recent than I thought it was. I just wanted to say thank you to for being here and bringing these concerns. And I just really, I do, I would like to continue collaborating with your commission, because I think we could do some interesting things and perhaps be able to come up with solutions. One of the things we talked about was, we have square tree pits, and is it ever a possibility that we could have like semicircles or tree pits that are just a little more intuitive, you know, when walking out and about. Um, I'm not surprised that the crumb rubber things are slippery because they're high in PFAS, and I don't love them, but if they do provide ADA access, I think that's, you know, um, I'll put my pitchfork down around crumb rubber if it means that they're safe and accessible. And, or maybe there's another solution that's going to have to come out if they're not as safe as we anticipated. But I did want to get back to Ed Leathers, because the picture that Holly showed me, Vanessa, I believe that these tree roots that are kind of coming up over into the schist. So there's like a lot of those pathways that have the schist, which is that rock, very fine kind of rock that is ADA accessible, or has been an approved substance to use in parks. But yeah, so there are some roots are kind of climbing into it. So I'm wondering if those areas could be root pruned. So I guess that would be, if it helps, I could just put a 311 in.
We already are aware of it. The
Okay.
trees are really close to the path, so pruning big roots will destabilize those trees.
Okay.
A lot of those trees have cankers, they're dying back, so we're gonna remove some probably this summer. So like the long term, something will be different because once those trees are gone, then that'll be fine to cut the roots because the trees won't be alive anyways. The one thing I can say about Ed Leathers is there are 3 paths in it. So the top path has become inaccessible, but I believe the other 2 are accessible. Is that your experience, Holly? No.
The lower path where there's a lot of the blue rubbery stuff, and there's sort of like some kid features where the rubber meets the road. Literally, it has like fasteners during the transitions, and a lot of the branches have grown underneath that material and are actually pushing up the blue material and are lifting up the fastener. So there's huge tripping hazards. But I don't know if you could see, I was holding up, I actually have the pictures of from Ed Leathers of what it looks like.
Small. I can't see very well. I can see roots. I do see roots.
I think there was a bench or some type of fixture that was removed, probably because it had eroded. It looks like that's part of this path eroded, and that's why it has this really high slope now, and it's not paved anymore. And then tree roots are coming through, but there were 2 very high, solid metal, like rebar pieces that were holding something on it, like I don't know if it was a water fountain many years ago, but they were sticking up a couple of inches. And I watched a runner with a dog through the path, like literally trip and then catch himself in front of me. He would have just like been impaled by these pieces of metal. And that was a while ago when I asked about this. It was in September of 23. Yeah, I had the 311 request still when I put that in. And I think it was closed out that those branches were from mature trees and that they couldn't be cut back. But I know that there's been a lot of work done. Like I said, residents were talking about it, which is great. But those are the pictures. And actually this one, you can see the pink, that's where those bolts were sticking up.
Would it be helpful to submit those with the 311? Or are there any, I'm trying to think how we can help get this to the right people.
I submitted it in September of 23, and I have the request number here. It was 1273131. I don't know. Can't use my phone to look it up because I'm using the phone for the call. It probably was closed.
Okay, well, I think we'll have that in the meeting notes. And I do want to be mindful of time, and also thank you for bringing this. I think we all probably learned a lot here. So I just want to give some space if there's any last comments on this.
I'm wondering how we can reconcile the statement that we're giving 3 feet width for maybe new trees, but that there's been some update in the guidance. Like, where can we get the latest guidance so that we know what to follow for new trees at least?
So I'm not an expert, but as a
Me either.
landscape
I'm like
architect, this
ChatGPTing
is,
it, and it's like kind of giving me a different answer. So
well, as a landscape architect, we come up against this a lot. There's a whole lot of requirements, and typically we have code consultants and specific ADA consultants who guide all of our work. So like we do our best to research it and come up with a design, and then we have a separate consultant who will review all of our drawings and say, yes, like they're experts in all of the code. So I dropped a link into the chat called PROAG, and this is a new set of recommendations that's just for the public right-of-way. So it also depends on if you're working on private land, public land, streets, which is the right-of-way is basically like the street and up to the property line. So it includes sidewalks and trees and street and parking and all this stuff. So the PROAG guidelines just were updated this past July. So it's like super recent. It was like 20 years in the making. And in that guidance, from my limited understanding, but just got a training on it. I think that states the new 48-inch minimum for sidewalk clearance. And then if there's any turning requirements, that's where it bumps up to the 5 feet. So all to say, it's very nuanced, and any public project that's happening will go through really scrutinous review of the designs. I'm not sure. I think most of the tree planting that Vanessa's doing is in existing sidewalks, so it won't necessarily be held to the new standards because they're not changing the curb line. They're just installing a tree within the existing sidewalk. So it really has to do with the width of the curb and the, between the curb to the sidewalk. And the jurisdiction gets really complicated, we'll say. Like, certain people are responsible for the street. Vanessa oversees the tree. And then like the sidewalk, I'm not sure if that's, it's also city, but it's shared between multiple jurisdictions. So I don't know if that's helpful or made it more complicated, but on any public project, there's a lot of scrutiny of this and code consultants, and there's a lot of, you have to submit all your plans, and they're all reviewed by the city, and they're all reviewed by people who are experts in this, because we can't expect that everyone is. So when Holly was mentioning the newer projects, those had to comply. But it's really the existing stuff that is much trickier because it was done before 1990, before we had ADA, before we had all of these requirements and guidelines. And bringing them up to speed is much harder because our city was designed, with all the dimensions that we're not accounting for all of these uses we have now. So I won't run on too much. I also see Juliana's hand here.
Yes, it seems to me that beside the question of trees and planting, that going forward clearly, you can take into considerations, the right spaces and what is needed, to make sure that there is accessibility. I think there is a question that Holly mentioned at the beginning that is about upkeeping, maintenance, of the existing spaces, because the image that you showed, and 2 years went by, and these rods are still sticking up. Who is, I mean, in the city, I don't think the urban forestry is responsible, for this upkeeping. And there are a lot of issues, with sinkholes, that open in the sidewalk, in the street, and they are there for 6 months, So it would be, in a way, you just addressed it, Leah, that there are different, spaces of interest and responsibilities with sidewalk, trees, and so on and so forth. But it would be important, no matter what is done with new projects and trees, to sort of make sure there is a sort of a follow-up in tree care, in sidewalk care, in the infrastructure that is sort of falling apart. Because I was walking today, and I was actually walking by the WPA. And since now I know that, the trees are planted because you contract a company, and then a company is contracted to water the tree, I was sort of thinking in that frame of mind, what is the WPA doing then? Meaning if it's not taking care of this sort of like the upkeeping of the tree, there should be a work that goes toward fixing sort of infrastructural problems, that they're not the tree's fault, not all the time, at least. So that is just something that goes with the question of who is responsible for what and who does what within the city. That is sort of murky at this point, at least for me. Thank you.
Vanessa, I don't know if you have a response to that, but I think that is a good segue to our next agenda item, which is updates from the city, where we talk about some of these maintenance concerns and questions. But yeah, I don't know if Vanessa, you have a direct response.
I'm not sure what WPA is. Do you mean DPW by chance? Oh, DPW. Okay, great. Yeah, they are responsible for maintenance. They're always understaffed and under budget, and have a huge responsibility with failing infrastructure everywhere. So I know there is the highway department that fixes sidewalks. I'm sure they have a huge backlog. Our tree crew, who does tree maintenance, has a huge backlog of requests. There's gaps in staffing and funding that means we get backlogs, and then it's hard to ever catch up. So they're working hard every day. Are they doing enough? No. Can they do more with what they have? Probably not. So it's a bit of a challenge. And yeah, we like to say in PSA, if we get money to build like Mercedes parks, and we have I forget, Louisa says it so much better than me, but like we build these fancy things and don't have the money to keep them maintained over time. We still have, a bike maintenance budget for a Mercedes park. I don't know, something like that. So we're trying. There's always more that needs to be done, and it's frustrating for everyone, including staff. I see Marion has her hand up. Marion?
I just wanted to say that, like, going back to this, this is a chronic problem. This is much bigger and systemic. But one thing that we can do as an urban forestry committee is support and promote community stewardship to the extent possible. Like, communities can't fix sidewalks, but we can clean up some stuff. We can remove some obstacles. We can make sure that things get reported and things like that. So maybe at some point, one of the things that we should consider is, beyond the adopt a tree for new trees, are there more things that we could be doing to promote community stewardship? And I don't know if there are, but I'm just saying, like, this seems to me like we can't leave it all in the hands of an understaffed, under-budgeted municipal government.
I personally would not mind pruning. I just walk around and see so much need for pruning. And I've seen other communities deputize citizens once they go through certain training. Like if they go through a pruning practical or they've done some certification, they are deputized by the forester. I saw that in Chicago. I've seen that in Newton.
I think it's in New York too.
I'm happy to prune. If that would be something that would help. One person's not going to help. So I think it kind of needs to be like a program, or like we go to a park and we all, like multiple people would prune or something.
I
I
think
don't know if there's
that's
interest in starting that or training people beyond what's covered by our current contracts. Like I assume people come around and maybe they prune in the first 3 years, but maybe they don't for year 6 and 9.
Our planting contractors will prune if we ask them to, but usually not much in the first 2 years. Then they enter our young tree training program until they age out of that. So on a 3-year cycle, all of the young trees should be getting pruned until they're about 20 or 25 feet tall or too big and bulky to be done with little pole pruners. We just started a routine pruning program for our streets. So we've now done Ward 1 and part of Ward 2 for larger trees. But there's some middle trees there that still aren't getting in any routine program. And since we're just starting that routine program, we have a ways to go. Plus, trees don't just get bushy and grow every 3 or 7 years. So yes, there's always more need. Our tree crew has tons of work. There are some challenges because they're union staff with doing things that they might do, but so we'd have to talk to the grounds department to see, like, make sure that they're on board with having citizen pruners. I think they would be, especially for like little things you're doing from the ground with hand pruners. I don't think they'd have a problem, but we just would have to double check. I'd be happy to have more help out there pruning stuff. I know you've done it before, Allison, Allie, so I would be happy to deputize you for others, that are interested in it. I'd love to have a training program. I know other cities have it, like you said. Just, yeah, getting it off the ground is making time to do that we haven't done. But maybe since you've gone through these programs, maybe if you're interested, in like helping figure out what a program could be like, I'd love to pick your brain about that.
Yeah, I feel like I saw an article where the city took a pause on taking requests from people because it made them go in like so many different directions and it was kind of inefficient. But once they adopted, like, we're doing Ward 1 now, then Ward 2, which it kind of sounds like you're moving towards that direction. It took them a little while to get on top of it, but then it was much more efficient for them.
Right.
So it's possible that just because of where I live and where I walk, I see more than what's happening in some of those wards going through that initial program. But it's really probably like picking a good inventory of where you need help, you don't have the help. And yeah, that's a lot of work to think about.
Dorothy, I see your hand.
I was just going to say that I think something like that would be a great idea. Also, just thinking about the outreach and the people that sign up and they really want to do something. And so if there's some way for us to put together a program like that, I think that would, it would be, I'm assuming that many people would be interested in doing it. There was a process that they could be approved and then somehow go out and do it. So I really like that idea. Thanks, Allie, for bringing it up.
Yeah, I would almost suggest making that a subgroup so that it appears on our agenda every month. Then we can think about how to, formalize that a little bit. I don't know if there's any other folks who would be interested in volunteering, you, Allie, but create a little task force to figure out, maybe it is as simple as doing one annual training or as often as folks are interested. I know volunteer management is like a whole different beast. It involves a lot of behind the scenes work. But I think a great starting point could just be training a few others, because I know that's something I'd love to be trained on, and I don't currently have those skills. So I'd love to attend a training. So maybe that would be a great first step. if you're open to it, and if we could do it with the city or others.
Yeah, maybe UFC can be our test case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. Marion.
I'm gonna say that I mean I would be open to helping with that too, but I think there's more stuff too that we aren't doing. Like, you know, like how many of our trees are like current, like just walking in my neighborhood, like there's so much junk right now in the tree pits. There's like Japanese knotweed, there's, you know, all sorts of other, so like I think there's a lot of opportunities for stewardship that don't necessarily involve pruning, which can be quite dangerous. If you do it wrong, you can really commit murder there. But I think that is an area where, as a committee, the fact that the city has an urban forestry committee, the fact that we know, like, I mean, like I was at a tree planting, you know, for I know that the stuff that the Mystic River Watershed Committee did recently, you know, like people showed up, people were enthusiastic. And if we can create momentum where people like volunteer like every first Saturday or whatever to just go and work their way through a street, you know, that could make a huge difference in the health and the passability and all sorts of things.
Absolutely. Yeah, Juliana, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea because in a way it would give content to Adopt Me that people, perhaps they want to adopt a tree, but they don't quite know beside water, you know, how to do it. So even have, I don't know, an event in which people are sort of aware of the tree in front of their house and what they could be doing. And it could be the pruning, it could be the weeds, you know, and with the weeds actually would make people aware of, you know, weeds, they're very invasive and perhaps take care even of their yard, you know. So I think that something like that would be great, and a lot of people would be really enthused to do something, you know. So definitely I would.
Great. And yeah, I think we should keep moving because we have other subcommittees that I think are addressing similar challenges. The last thing just because I selfishly have the floor, I've been thinking of going to Ace and getting a 5-gallon bucket and some trash pickers, and just like whenever I go for a walk, bringing my bucket with me and picking up trash. Because I think the other thing is like cues to care. And if our tree pits look more cared for, I filled probably 5 gallons full of trash from the bioswale down the street from my house the other weekend, and it just looked much better because I didn't see all the trash that had accumulated over the year. And that's something that took me 10 minutes. And so I think, you know, mobilizing and starting to talk to your neighbors, and these are things like cleaning up trash is free and doesn't need training, except for being careful to not be injured by weird trash. But a first and possibly easy step that could catalyze other more DIY investment in time. So yeah, thanks, Allie, for bringing that up. I think that's a great catalyst. All right, so let's move to updates from the city. I know we have a lot to get through and we just have an hour left. So I think we'll move to city tree removals next. I see Malik hopped on. I don't know if Vanessa or Malik is gonna do the.
I'll start with the city tree removals. I don't think we've done many except emergency ones. We've been working on pruning. There were 2 trees that were removed that were mostly dead and we're not at this tab yet, Leah, but
This one or not?
no, I'm doing like
Oh, big
big
city
trees.
ones.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Sorry.
So there was one on Aberdeen that was like more than half dead and had really bad girdling roots, and similar on Vinyl across from the growing center. We removed a Norway maple that was mostly dead and had really bad girdling roots. Other than those, I can't think of any. Street trees. Just today, the West Branch Library tree was removed. The big Norway maple in the back that was planned for month or so ago, but there was some challenges with the removal that pushed it to today. So I think we talked about that at our last meeting. I think Malik brought it up. Those are the only ones I can think of at the moment. I am going to schedule a tree hearing for a honey locust tree on Cross Street that is right where a crosswalk needs to go. There's 3 honey locusts in a row, so it would be removing one of them. Shouldn't have a huge impact on the canopy there, but there will be a tree hearing probably June 5th. So I'll send out the information once it's set. Shall we proceed, or are there any questions? Let's proceed. Okay. Malik, if you're still here, do you want to do your private tree removal spiel?
All right. She's a little out of date because I've been gone for the last 10 days. So I am still updating that. We are up to a little shy of 19 tree removal permits now. Most of them are residential exemptions or convoluted issues where you have, waivers for other reasons. So like one I'm dealing with now is a tree right up against the house. That's gonna get a waiver because there's no viable way to care for that tree and still have your house intact. Other than that, there's been a few exemptions. Let's see, I'm gonna take a look here.
And
That
just
are
while
still,
you bring that up for the folks who are new or this is your first meeting, we started keeping track on a publicly visible but not editable spreadsheet, keeping track of all tree removals and permits. And the difference between that is getting permission to remove a tree on your property.
yes. So I think the new ones would be 35 Moreland Street, in which we have 2 Norway maples that are undersized, and then 31 Seawall, which has, I believe, a tree of heaven. So,
Or Malik, you know my question. Are you going to give them the Tree of Heaven guidance?
oh, so I will try and figure out a way to supplement that information in the exemption language when they are removing a tree of heaven. Usually they
They
get
should
an
not remove it now. Like one of the biggest things is the timing. They should be doing it when you can put the herbicide in and the leaves will like pull the sugars down to the roots and kill the roots.
I guess it would depend on why they're getting rid of the tree, in terms of what timing they choose to respect, but I will definitely give them the information. Maybe I could just submit a link to the information on the guidance and then throw it in anytime I see someone's getting rid of a tree of heaven, and that should spread the awareness.
Right. I have to admit, I have not done my job of putting this on the website, but I will do that tomorrow, and then you can put a link in your permit stuff, like.
All right.
I also wonder if we can like advertise this kind of like now as the growing season is picking up, because if people like they're starting to come up now. And so if people are saying, "Oh, I really got to remove it," doing it now would do them a disservice as opposed to waiting a couple of months. So I don't know if there's a way to give a little bit of an update of what, like newly published guidance from the Somerville Urban Forestry Committee related to Tree of Heaven.
We can post on our public space and urban forest or Somerville Parks Instagram. I don't know how widely that gets seen, but that's a start, and I can submit it to our comms team to see if they want to push it somewhere else too.
That'd be great. And if you do have a link, I'm happy to kind of spread it on social media or something,
Yes. Great.
Well, and there's always the city councilors are always happy to put things in their newsletters, those that have them.
Mm-hmm. It's a great idea. And also just neighborhood listservs. I know my neighborhood listserv had one about knotweed removal guidance, so I need to still respond to that, but that made me think, oh, we need one for that too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, sometimes insurance like won't insure the property if there's knotweed because it's so damaging to the infrastructure.
Yeah. But anyway, sorry, not to derail us too far, but give us more homework.
That's more or less all I had. Just the general gist. You'll see it being updated over the course of the next couple hours as I'm working here.
Great. And are there any other permit applications to go through?
Um,
Or just
Nothing
the new
very
ones?
specific. Just going through the ones that came in while I was on vacation. So
Mhm.
just making sure that's all tied up, and then I'll go through and reach out to people I've followed up with, make sure I get everything back. There's a lot of back and forth with residents.
Great. Any follow-up questions or concerns? All right, on to the next. Let me just close that. All right, Parks Tree Health Program. This sounds relevant to many things we've talked about.
Oh, the Park Street Health Program is more or less wrapping up for the season. Today they removed the West Branch Library tree before it was postponed because of logistics and the weight of a crane. So it's been removed today, and me and Vanessa are going to be looking to replant in that area. So stump removal is tomorrow. And that is more or less it. We have successfully done work in 10 parks across the city and pruned over 200 trees. So,
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah.
I just put
Yeah,
a link
great
in the
job.
chat for anyone who wants to see which parks.
Great. All right, enough of tree removals. Let's talk about planting.
Planting.
How's
Okay.
spring tree planting going?
We got 51 trees in the ground with volunteers through the Mystic River Watershed Association project. Marion helped one day and with Doris. And so those are trees across 5 or 6 parks. I want to say 5. So that was a good start. Still working on all the other street tree planting lists. Have about 50 ready to go, and I'm planning to do at least 75 more so we can get to our total of 175. My Teams chat is blowing up. I don't know if you hear all that clicks, so sorry. Yes. Questions?
I think that sounds
Dorothy.
Yeah, do you need more volunteers for help with tree planting, or is there more activities like that planned?
That's the wrap for the volunteer-based tree planting for the spring, but we're gonna do another round in the fall and probably again next spring. So yes. For these rounds, the Mystic River Watershed organized most of the volunteers, but I realize I have lots of people itching to do tree planting here, so I think I'm gonna push to do a little more outreach with our urban forestry enthusiast lists for the fall so that more people have an opportunity and get a little more notice than a few days. So not right now, but soon.
Vanessa, you said how many trees have you planted so far?
51.
Wait, I thought 51 was the parks, or
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
okay.
And
But
then
you
I-
said something about 175, so I just wanted to keep track of the
yeah,
numbers for.
Gotcha. I will do 175 total this spring, so I have 125 to go. I have sites already identified for another 50 trees at least. And that was my reticence about all the rain. Fieldwork has been a challenge, but yeah, gonna keep going.
Great. Let's
When
go
when
to
does spring planting finish?
Ideally June 15th, but depending on weather and if I've gotten all my trees in the ground, it may go a little longer than that.
All right. Any other tree planting questions? I think our next item is tree preservation ordinance amendments. I know this has been on the docket for a while. Do we have updates?
Yes, so we discussed the ordinance amendments with City Council at various committee meetings. And the committee approved the amendments. After we discussed it in the Urban Forestry Committee, we did a lot of internal city work with staff to like tweak the ideas to be implementable and like reasonable. The ideas are all the same. It's just the implementation and wording. In the city council, we talked about some other things, and the city council legislative person did a lot of like ordinance language revisions so that it all is like a cohesive ordinance instead of the hodgepodge that it was as 3 different sort of iterations of the full ordinance. So I don't know for sure if it was approved by the full city council yet, but if it hasn't, it should be soon. So we will be yeah, doing better. So the ordinance amendments included specific construction protection for trees around construction activities, both from the street side and private property side. It included a change to private tree removal permits where owner occupants get a majority waiver from the requirements for replanting or repaying, but they do have to do a little bit. So a 90% reduction of what a non-owner occupant would do. So yeah, generally it would be like you need to replant 1 tree or something like that. Sort of depends on the case, but there's that. We also modified the youth member for the committee to be during the academic year and not summers. I do have to check. I don't know if that means that we don't have to have the youth members count towards the quorum. I'm kind of confused actually with how that will be, how that will actually change anything, but
Were we doing the one year?
yeah, they are 1 year.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And make it easier for them to get on the committee and not have to go through all the.
We still, because it's a city council created
They still have to do that.
ordinance, we still have to have the city council approve their
But the process has been simplified a bit, right?
in general, yes. I think I need to do much better because this has been a very drawn out process. It's hard to squeeze it in. So some of the delays are on my side, but supposedly it will be streamlined.
Okay.
Those are the big changes I can think of. So yeah, finally done. It's done. We did it.
Great. Send us will you get a like notification when it all goes
Yeah.
through and share that around?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. I know that was a huge multi-year big effort, and there was a lot of discussion and debate about the proposal and the changes that we wanted to make. So that's a huge celebration.
Absolutely.
Yay. Tori?
Was the tree protections on private property and public property, was that a new thing, or is that spurred on by Denise's situation?
No, that was something we wanted
All,
That was mostly why this thing took so long. Chris's ideas to amend were much simpler than adding a whole new sections of construction protection. So
okay.
it's already there.
Well, thank you for your work on this.
Absolutely.
Great. Civic Space Guide.
Yeah, I just wanted to put a shout out our Public Space and Urban Forestry Division finalized a civic space design guide for our public spaces. So I'm gonna put a link in the chat. A lot of our new open space comes from developments building new parks with our city guidelines and guidance and oversight. But now we have a guide to tell them this is what we mean when we say you have to build a park. So check it out at the Summer Voice page. There will be additional information with these, like a spec book for people to use in the future. So that's step 2, but really excited that this guide is out there. Feel free to share or check it out.
Awesome. That's so exciting. I want to see that spec book.
You know.
Wow. All right. Maybe there will be questions on this next time, but I definitely want some time to digest. That's awesome.
Great.
Any immediate questions, thoughts on that, or we'll probably come back to it in the future? I guess maybe my high-level question is, what does it say about trees and stuff? And does it reference all of our native planting ordinance and things like that?
I'm sure it references all of our ordinances and other guidelines. Truth, I have not read it all, so I don't know if it how detailed it gets into all these things, but I'm sure it references the Somerville Pollinator Action Plan and our Urban Forest Management Plan.
I'll just reference briefly the appendix references a bunch of planning, open space recreation, pollinator action plan, urban forest management plan, and all the neighborhood plans. So that's great. And I'll just scroll because there's a lot of pretty photos. Michael? Question?
Yeah, I was wondering, so it's privately owned, but it is public. How, if Vanessa, if you're aware of like the overview of when it comes to getting rid of trees or replacing trees, how do the rules apply in this? Is it more like a private space, or do they have like the higher level public requirements on them?
Great question. We say privately owned public space, but it's actually usually a hodgepodge of different things. So sometimes a developer will build a park and then donate it to the city, but also maintain it. So sort of depends on each property. If it's privately owned property at the time, like actually private property, then any tree removal would be subject to our private tree removal ordinance. If they've given it to the city, then we do all the city parks rules. So we just follow the same requirements as any other property, depending on who owns it.
Cool, thanks.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, there's some really good stuff in here. I don't want to totally go down a rabbit hole because I know we have a lot of other stuff to go through. So that's everyone's homework, is to review and come back. Actually, I'd ask to keep that on the agenda next time to remind us to review it. That would be great.
Okay. I do have a hard stop at 6:30. I have to go to city council meeting, so
Oh, double whammy.
yeah.
All right. Yeah, let's keep rolling. Sourcing plants without neonicotinoids. I forget if this was.
I put this request from Renee who's my neighbor and head of the Massachusetts Pollinator Action Network. We just wanted to ask how that's going. Because I believe in the native planting ordinance, we do have a sunset clause. I think that we will like no longer get plants with neonicotinoids, and I need to double check. But that was the reason for putting this on.
Yeah. That is, that sunset clause is there. 2026 was the cutoff.
Mhm.
We do our best to source plants without neonicotinoids. It's much easier, or it's more possible for non-tree plants, but to get the number of plants we need for big park projects or for our tree planting at the size that we need, there aren't very many nurseries that have enough plants or plants of the right size that never ever use neonicotinoids. The ones that are the best I've seen with trees is we only use neonicotinoids when we don't have any other option. Even Bigelow says that. So they don't say never, they say we try not to. So if we don't amend the sunset clause, we may have way fewer plants going in the ground and fewer trees. We are trying to track it. So I'm putting together our native plant ordinance, and we're trying to, where we can, put in information about neonicotinoids at the nurseries, but we're doing our best. There just isn't the sourcing that we need available.
And I can add a little bit to that.
Please do.
Are you going to Field Day, Vanessa, this year?
I'm not.
I'm also not going to make it, but I was part of a task force that came out of the Boston Society of Landscape Architects conference last year. And there's going to be a panel this year at the conference, which is next Friday, focused on this. And it's a panel of nursery people and designers talking about this issue explicitly. And they've sent out a survey to a lot of nurseries asking them how they grow their plants and what the challenges are around neonicotinoids. And they've created an incredible spreadsheet resource that I think will probably be made public after that, hopefully. I can probably share it with you as a read only or something. But they've done, yeah, an incredible survey of basically all the nurseries in the East, like New England, Mid-Atlantic area, and specifically what they source. So there's a tab that's purely neonic free, and it's a lot of small nurseries, and all the bigger ones are more limited, and that's what we've heard so far. And I've been talking to nurseries, just like when I'm doing tree tagging, I'm like interrogating them on this all the time. And they're like, the challenge is that their rootstock all comes from one lab in Oregon for like all commercially grown trees, which I like need to dig in more. I don't understand. I was like, yeah, this was while we were driving around in a gator truck picking out trees. So I was like, need to follow up on this later. But so the process of growing trees also takes 7 to 10 years to get a tree that's ready to grow in the ground. And so if we are going to start seeing changes in this, like they're starting to do the things and it's going to be ready in 7 years. But if they're starting to do the things now on the trees that they're starting to grow from zero, those trees are only going to be ready to go in the street, in 5 to 7 years optimistically. So it's like, yeah, I've been really thinking about this a lot and helping to put together this panel. And they're trying to reach out to all, a broad spectrum of folks. And I'll share back. My colleague's going to the conference, so we're going to get the resources from it, and I'll share that back at our next meeting. But yeah, it's really challenging. And once you get into it, you're like, there's a whole industry behind this, and it's so large and complex. And I think I did ask the nursery guy, I was like, so how do we start to shift this? And it's, yeah, I think continually requesting the plants that we want, even if we're not getting them. And they're selling out of their native plants. They're like starting to source them from further and further away, which means they're coming on trucks, which is also not great. But he was also saying a lot of small nurseries are closing because they just can't keep up. So like we need more nurseries. That's the answer. And the small nurseries can't keep up with the big nurseries, and the big nurseries can't keep up with the quality of the small nurseries. But sorry, I'll stop rambling on. But that's a little bit of a slice of one person's investigation into this, and I'll bring back more resources next month. But yeah, a really important issue. I'm also going to drop in the link a podcast that I've been listening to that is fun and lighthearted, but also very informative. A nursery person in Beverly started a podcast called Gardening for Hot People, and it's fun and depressing, but mostly fun. Sorry, Marian.
For those of us who are ignorant, can you give us the very short version of why we don't want neonicotinoids?
Can I answer with recommending you listen to episode 3 of this podcast? Because they actually bring on the director of conservation from the Xerces Society, and she gives an incredible answer to that question in a way that's like very much better than I could do. But it's basically a pesticide that never goes away and is used universally in the nursery trade. But it's a persistent pesticide that's applied to plants and then never goes away. But in the podcast, they do say that it aggregates into the leaf. Sorry, my mental recall is not great, but there's a lot of really great information. I'm going to drop a link in the chat. And I think they have all of their episodes on YouTube. So I will link to that one, and then they have links for more. But it was really informative and also very like publicly understandable. So I would definitely recommend that if that's a appropriate answer to that. All right, any other questions on that topic?
Just question or sort of shocked around that root stock, like
I
we're
need to
all
dive into
trees.
that more. Like it didn't fully go into my brain, but I want to talk to other nursery people and have a better understanding of like how, because it's not as simple as like, yeah, you plant a seed and you grow a tree and then you have a tree. It's like to grow the tree that is in our streets, it seems like it goes through a long and complex process where it's not coming from one place. And most of the nurseries we're getting our trees from are like foster homes. So there's nurseries that specialize in growing the tree from 0 to 2. And then there's nurseries that specialize the like teenage years. And then they go, because all these, because capitalism, everyone has honed their time where they are best able to care for these trees. Caring from a tree from 0 to 10 is not as financially feasible as caring for them in their teenage years and then sending them to the city. Yeah, Dorothy's saying like with livestock. Yeah, it's something I don't, I'm not an expert, but I'm starting to understand bits and pieces of the process.
Yeah,
But yeah,
and I
it's
guess
like
this is
you lift up the stone and you're like, oh, there's a whole world under here.
yeah.
So it's long and complex, but I think the answer for small, for your yard, if you're doing small installations, finding small nurseries where they're growing wild seed, that's
Yeah.
the answer. And that anytime your friend asks you to where to get plants, like the smaller and more local we can keep it, that's the answer. But it is hard when you're sourcing, yesterday I was on site planting 3,000 plants, and I'm not
Yeah.
going to get 3,000 1-gallon plants from a small nursery. So it's really challenging. But again, sorry, trying to be aware of time. Let's shift to our ongoing work updates. I know first one is outreach, and I know last time outreach group really wanted to schedule Arbor Day. And yeah, Dorothy, do you wanna?
Sure.
share what we talked about?
So before we get to Arbor Day, the first opportunity to do outreach, I'll just say I want to talk a little bit about dates, and then there's actually some questions. We've had a couple of meetings since we last talked. And so the first one is June 1st, which is Carnival in East Somerville. It's one of the Summer Streets programs. And so I guess the question is, how does this work, Leah or Vanessa? Do we just take volunteers, or, yeah, I'm not sure of the timing on it or anything like that yet, but maybe you know, Vanessa?
I do know I usually apply on our behalf.
Okay.
So I can do that if folks are interested. I think it's a 4-hour day, so depends who's interested, how you break it up. On the whole update note, I did order the tablecloth that Leah designed, and we have it in hand, so we are ready to go.
Awesome.
But
Great.
yeah, so if people are interested, I can sign us up.
Yeah, so I think
oh, go ahead, Leah.
no, I was just going to say first step is June 1st, 2 to 6, making sure we have at least 2, if not ideally 4 people who can volunteer. Because if we don't have volunteers, then we probably shouldn't sign up. But we have volunteers, then Vanessa can sign us up. And if we don't have enough people today, we can also, finalize over email probably to other folks who aren't at the meeting today. So yeah, Summer Streets Carnival.
I'm available for at least a 2-hour slot. Doesn't matter when. I'd be flexible.
I'd be
I
willing
think I
to do it
could-
too.
Sorry. I think I could probably do 2 to 4 on June 1st. Like that 2-hour slot. Help set up.
I think I can do 4 to 6.
I'll
Great.
sign
So
us up.
sounds like we have enough to sign up.
Great. And then we also wanted to schedule Arbor Day, and an Arbor Day, for those of you that haven't, I learned this, I know I've attended, but I didn't really know how involved it was, but usually it's on a weekend, sometimes it can be on a Thursday evening. And all UFC members are invited to attend. The mayor comes and makes a declaration. And there's a detailed list in our outreach material about what happens on Arbor Day. And so we chose 2 tentative dates to run by, I guess, Vanessa, you, and to see if, and the committee, which were June 12th and June 26th. I think those are both in the evening. I'm not looking at a calendar, but those are not weekend days. But since it's so beautiful out, I thought maybe it'd be nice to do it on a weekday, get people out of the house and have a moment.
Yeah, they're both Thursday evening, which we know city folks can sometimes work later. So we thought that might be helpful as long as it doesn't overlap with city council or other super relevant committee meetings.
I'm free both of those days. I can check the city calendar for any other big events, but those both sound good.
Great.
But probably if it's all the same, opt for the earlier one just to make sure we're still doing tree planting at that time. But we just might be going through the 26th, so probably fine either way.
So do you want to, can you let us know, is that how this works, Vanessa? You can let us know if the 12th works or the 26th, and then we go from there, or
Yeah,
whatever.
usually we just sort of hammer it out at a meeting, but since we are missing some people, I don't know if you'd already talked about these dates at your outreach committee, so those work for everybody on the outreach committee. Okay.
It
And
was
Mary
a
didn't-
smaller, it was just me and Dorothy on that
Yeah.
specific meeting.
Oh, cute. Okay.
But we
Why
were,
don't I send out a doodle poll to everyone or whatever polls
Okay.
and see where we're at? But
Yeah.
assuming it'll be like 5-ish, 5 to 7-ish or something, on one of those days. It sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we just chose it because we were like, we need, if we're going to do this,
Gotta pick a day.
gotta happen.
Love it. Great.
and we were like, we're available. So hopefully
Yeah.
if we come with
let us
options.
know. Great. So other things, folks have heard about the tablecloth. which is wonderful. Thank you, Leah, for all your work on that. There's been some work in the background to organize and document what our existing materials are. And there's, I don't know, Allie, if you're still on, one of the idea was there were two kind of pieces, but the idea was, could we be a little bit better organized when we are tabling, maybe with some talking points so that we can start to engage people and have a sense of where to direct them, because of the massive amount of material that we have. It can be sometimes hard to know like what to talk to people about. And so we were we're in the early stages of organizing that. And the two outcomes, or the two pieces of that, are the, you know, an tabling inventory list, and then some talking points that Rob and I think Allie, you started working on. So I don't know if Allie, if you want to add anything there or not on that.
I think that's a good overview. I think what's really important is the inventory, and then putting that inventory on the Somerville Urban Forestry site. So we do have a lot of resources like in one spot, and that we then know what talking points to make to point people to those resources.
Okay. Yeah, the inventory right now is, yeah, why don't we figure out what's able to go on there, because it's very much a it's meant to be an internal document, and we still need to have some discussion about what actually needs to happen with some of the pieces and things like that. So, but yeah, that's a good idea. So that's a good segue into the next piece. It's about a website. And we know, Vanessa, that you kind of wait for, as we understand it, you wait to get a bunch of information, and you request a website update from the city, so that everything goes in at once or in batches. And the committee wondered if it would be unusual or difficult to have an outside link to a Google website. And if we were going to do that, Callie volunteered to set it up. And we thought that this would be one thing that maybe the high school or the student participant on the committee might be able to help and keep update, just so they have an ongoing task within the committee, was one thought. And that was actually, I think, Callie's recommendation. So we didn't know, like, are we allowed to do this? Or what we need to know in order to do that. And then there is a small group of people that are interested in, you know, putting a basic site together, having links to all the documents, being sure that there's QR codes on documents and things like that. And kind of going through like what really makes sense. But the high level question is, can we do this?
Feel like I've seen a committee have one outside before, so maybe I have to check.
And I'm wondering if a part B could just be a link to a Google folder that has our published, like has our approved memos. I'm wondering if that could be an in-between where, like as we update things, it might be easier, like faster. Instead of asking the webmaster to upload each of our memos, we can organize them maybe in a publicly viewable folder that would link to our website. So they just have to link to us once, and then we can keep updating memos and handouts and resources as they're made public.
It's easy for me to do, like, send the memos to the web team. That's easy. And I
Okay.
don't have to wait for batches. I don't have to wait for batches. But if we can't have an external website and someone wants to just retool our existing website, that's also possible. It's just someone has to have the idea and like move this here and move that there and add these things and say all that so that the webmaster can do it. I see that might be more complicated than someone actually just doing it themselves. So that's probably why you want it to do it yourselves. So let's cross that bridge when we get to it. I will ask someone if we're allowed to figure out who to
Great.
ask.
Awesome.
If there's any like single documents that are missing in the meantime that we want to add or update, feel free to reach out to me and just send me the new version.
Okay.
The only one that we've approved that's not up yet is the tree of heaven.
Okay.
And there
Yep.
was the champion tree list we made last year with a survey for people to add more suggestions.
Yeah, I that was never finalized, but if there's a final copy to put up here, I can definitely.
Yeah, there were I'd have to look at the outreach list. I won't do it right now, but there were several of them that that Michelle and I went through all of the materials, both from Vanessa, but also on the website. And we had questions about several of them. So it's probably worthy of the subcommittee going through and just, yeah, being sure they're finalized. Do we really want them? There was a lot of there was some duplication of material. So there were some questions about what's the best way to actually organize them and resource them for our own use, but also for the website or for a resource folder.
If it's helpful to have like a meeting with me, Dorothy, I can give you some history on some of the documents. Some we didn't make in UFC. They're just things we've grabbed to put in the outreach bag.
Okay.
If it's unclear what the deal of the document is, I'm happy to tell you what I remember.
Okay, that would probably be great.
Great.
And well, yeah, should be a short one. Okay, great. Let me just write this in my notes. Okay. Then you guys saw the beautiful Tree of Heaven flyer. That's wonderful. I guess Allie, Leah, and Callie, is that who worked on it? It looks really great. And then I guess the other one we were curious about was the most wanted weeds.
That one, Kala and Tori and I were working through, and I think, unfortunately, it might have been on Kala has a growing list here. She was going to offer to do the final formatting, but we had a great meeting a while back to gather all the information. But I'll follow back up with her and see how we're doing on that.
Great. And she did say she'd have time when school was out.
Yeah, she's probably deep in finals right now. So
yeah. So that's probably why she's not here.
I'm gonna
the most wanted weeds align to in like the most invasive species.
What was the question about that one?
Because I'm just wondering, like, I feel like there's a difference between like dandelions and knotweed.
Yeah,
and I wonder if like this is going in the direction of like telling people how to get rid of invasive species, which ones are the baddies. I think that I just spoke with Jennifer. What's her last name?
Clifford.
She used to be on the Urban Forestry Committee, Jennifer Clifford. She said that the Somerville Urban Forestry Committee did like endorse an invasive species management plan proposal. I don't know how long ago that was, but it was written by Green and Open Somerville and Earthwise Aware. And
I think so. Yeah, I think there's a few things.
Wonder if there's a way to align those. I'm really passionate about invasive species, so I'd love to kind of like take it to the next level, like not just these are invasive, but which ones should we be spending time removing and what is the best way to remove them?
Yeah, that would be great because I think something like that, because when we went through the inventory, there was stuff about both invasives, but things like emerald ash borer, spotted lanternfly, the black swallow, obviously. There was the most wanted weeds. There was another thing about obviously your Tree of Heaven thing. And so there were, I'm just trying to figure out, which ones do we really want to promote, or how do we promote all of them, was kind of the questions that we were trying to figure out and answer. And some of them like had QR codes, other ones didn't. Some were connected with websites that worked, other ones weren't. So there's a little bit of work to do to organize it all. But yeah, I like that idea of kind of not only saying what they are, but which ones do we really want to focus on removing?
Yeah, whatever subcommittee is doing that, I would really love to join it.
So I don't know if that would be, Leah, is that like
I can give a little bit of context here.
Okay, right.
So we had, or I don't know if Vanessa, you have something that's more relevant.
You can go.
Okay.
Do it. Yeah, do it.
So we had a most wanted weeds poster that was, I think, Allie, what you were saying, it was more dandelions and included some things that weren't the biggest offenders. And so we went through a process over the past, like, I want to say probably 3 or 4 years, to refine that list to the things that we thought were the most pressing species for us in Somerville. And I think we tweaked that with Tori and with Kala and with I think Dorothy's helped as well, and I think others. And then we met with, and now is where I'm gonna like blank again. So I can show this is the list of species. We also wanted it to not be too incredibly overwhelming. And we wanted it to be basically the gateway. And so we're thinking this is the first time that people are possibly seeing these plants, and also being mindful of not trying to reinvent a lot of resources that are out there. So we came up with this list of 23 species that we think are the biggest offenders. And that is what Kala is currently formatting into our poster. So yeah, we've had probably 2 or 3 meetings and little subcommittees. But if you want to join, I know, yeah, I think we were trying to put this out by all of our tabling this summer so that we'd have a new document. And then our thought was that we also wanted to link to other groups that have way more information about this. So if Vanessa, you want to go, and I'm going to pull up something in the background.
Yeah, I was just hoping I could connect one of our staff members, Meg, with, sounds like you, Leah, to get this list. She's trying to update some documents on our website too, about invasives. We know they're a huge problem and they're really hard to get rid of, and we're trying to figure out how we can be a support to that. So yeah. Sounds like that's the right move, right? You and Kala, Leah, are the people I should point her to.
Yeah, and
Okay.
maybe Allie as well, if you want to jump on the train. And I know Michael's helped with this as well. So yeah, this is the spreadsheet of the species we picked, and then we met with Earthwise Aware, and that was actually really eye-opening moment to be like, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I'm gonna flash up a few of their resources, and I can send links to these. But they've also done a little bit more of a deep dive. So our poster is just going to be photos and images. So it's really more of an ID that will help us when we're tabling to say, someone comes up and says, oh, I have this. And we can say, okay, great. Here's a flyer or a pamphlet or a way to find more resources about that thing. So we were really imagining it as like the first line of what people might see and getting them more familiar with it. And then being able to link to other more in-depth resources. So Allie, I don't know, have you plugged around or explored Earthwise Aware's resources before? We met with
Only
Claire.
just recently, like I was going to join their invasive species documentation course last Friday, but then it got
Yeah,
rained out and I can't go to the rain check one. So
awesome. Yeah, if you
Jennifer
like,
Clifford said, like, come around with me and we'll go
awesome.
do this work.
That's
Uh,
great. Yeah, my vision is like we are, um, they have a amazing infrastructure, and I would love to just like help support what they're doing rather than try and reinvent our own thing.
mhm.
I don't know if others agree with that, but they're like capturing tons of data points. So, um, yeah, they have this pocket guide, and then they're going out and doing a lot of data capturing. So going out and documenting where invasive species are around the state. I don't know how wide they're, greater Boston area. Um, so they have a ton of resources. It's a little overwhelming. It took me a little while to really understand what their website had and how many resources it had. But I think once we like parse through it a little bit more, we'll be able to like strategically send people to the right places. Because as a nonprofit, they also have more resources to like host volunteers. So I'm hoping this is like maybe the start of a bigger partnership with them, so that we can leverage the resources they have and leverage the fact that we're like out in the world talking to people and say, oh, you want to go do an invasive inventory, or you want to go do a poll? Great, go to Earthwise Aware. They're a great group who's doing this stuff, and we can help them get more interested folks. So that's how
Yeah,
I'm
I think
starting to
Green
think
and
about
Open
it.
Somerville also does some activities where you like go and remove
Totally.
things like black swallowwort or something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think leveraging these other groups that like have tools and volunteer coordinators and like folks doing this, and we can help provide the person power and partner on stuff that they're doing. And yeah.
I think
But
it
yeah,
would
so I'll
be,
share.
yeah, to know what they're doing so that we could send it out to our enthusiast list would be great.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
And to connect the dots.
Yep.
But I
Yeah,
like
so
that. Yeah, I think seems like a good idea to connect with them because, as you said, for all the reasons you mentioned, right? We're this little volunteer committee that we do
we don't have
things.
to tackle all the world's problems. We just have to help
Exactly.
get people somewhere. And I think Tori's really well connected in this world and recommended talking to Claire and Renee. So thank you so much for that, Tori. And I think Green and Open Somerville and Earthwise Aware and us, I think we can keep and ground like all the groups that we talk about working with, keeping those partnerships strong and leveraging them so we don't all have to be worrying about the same problems in silos. We can be more streamlined. But also recognizing the time. I'll drop these links in the chat for the meeting minutes so these can go out to folks, but I want to make sure we also have time to get to our last items. Allie, I can also share this spreadsheet with you.
Leah, I have one more thing. I just wanted to check with people. We had a tentative date for the outreach subcommittee for next Monday, May 19th at 7:30. I heard back from one person, so I'm curious to know if other people are available. If not, I think we'll try another date. But it would be that was the only date we had before the first, before the June 1st.
Tabling.
Carnival is.
I think that works.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I think that works for me. It's just not on my calendar yet. So
okay.
I would love to crash the meeting if available, but yeah.
Please.
It's never crashing.
Never crashing.
Contributing.
Yes. Okay. I'll send out an invite then after this. Thanks. Marion, can you put your email in the chat in case I don't have it? Thank you. Thanks, Leah.
Yep. And Leah, I'll keep trying to remember.
Leah, I'm sorry.
It's okay. All right. So I think in the interest of time, we covered the Most Wanted Weeds poster. I don't think we have any species selection updates except to request Vanessa that we get sort of a new refresh of handouts. Not too many though, just enough. Most people like to take photos of it anyways.
Yeah, just let me know which ones. Is it in? Yeah.
Cool. And then I think I will drop a link in the chat also for the job postings. There were quite a few, but I don't think we have time to go through all of them today. But I know Breck's job is up. And yeah, some other job postings are up that are relevant.
Tree surgeons, laborers, also an entire RFP on landscaping maintenance throughout the city. And I'm looking at the list of parks and
Wait, is that the horticulture one?
No, a different one.
Oh.
This was like, it encompasses a dozen different parks that aren't part of the horticulturalist position, seem a lot less ecological minded, but there is language around leaving leaves, so that's a thumbs up.
Sorry, I really have to go. Do we still have
All
a
right.
quorum without me?
Let's see, do we?
2, 4,
I should hop soon
6,
as
8.
well.
Motion to adjourn.
There we
Sorry.
go.
Sorry.
No, good idea.
Seconded.
But not until Leah puts those links in the.
Oh, yes. Sorry, going real fast. Oh my gosh. All right. Earthwise Aware Pocket Guide, and then earthwiseaware.org. That one's probably self-explanatory. And then their data collection website. Boom. All right. Copied all
Okay.
into the notes.
I gotta go.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.